What's up, deckheads? Welcome back to MTG with me. Today, I have a tier list for you for March of the Machine, the Aftermath. A little bit late on the set coming out, but I haven't done this before, so I figured I'd go over what I've seen in Standard Ranked, at least what popular cards I've seen in Standard Ranked. I'll go over a couple of the unique builds that I've seen as well, the cards that I think that'll make that happen, and I'll also touch on some of the cards that I think have not been used, but probably should be used, at least in the rares and mythic rares. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Fairly new channel, free to play player. So most of the stuff you see me playing, stuff I get through drafts and opening packs and the weekly challenges. But aside from that, there's some of these cards in here that I'd like to play, but I just have to wait until I have the means to do so. On the right side of the screen, you'll see Mythic Spoiler. This is where I'll show you all the cards kind of up close because the tier list doesn't really show you. Similar to the unboxing videos, I have a camera pointing at the cards that I'm opening up, but I'll use Mythic Spoiler to kind of show you so you can read along if you're having trouble hearing me or just, want to take a better look at the card. We'll just kind of go through what pops out first. Calyx is probably the #1 card that I've seen in Standard Ranked because the enchantment deck, the Selesnya enchantment deck, is really popular, and this really gets it to go to the next level. When he enters the battlefield, or another enchantment enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and then whenever he or enchanted creature deals combat damage to a player, you get to create a token of a non-legendary, except you can only do it once a turn. So that's pretty cool. There was this enchantment that gives Toxic. So it was a green, white, black deck, and you would enchant on turn 4 Calyx. Hit for Toxic damage, copy the enchantment giving Toxic, giving him more Toxic, and obviously that's an enchantment entering the battlefield, another +1/+1 counter, so he just makes himself gigantic, and when you get rid of him, he comes back to the battlefield, because that's another part of the other enchantment. So a lot of cool combination stuff you can do with this. It's great by itself, and it's also an enchantment creature, so there's a little plus and minus with that, little give and take, because it being an enchantment opens it up to more removal, but there's so much removal out there already, worth playing. So that's going to be an S tier for sure. Another card that pops out is Narset, and I just had that one up, but I'll pull it up again. Narset gives all your creatures prowess, so there is an American prowess deck that made it to Diamond really easily, and then, American Dragons is not, I haven't seen it yet, but I have a feeling you will see it. And it'll be along the same lines, probably more of a prowess kind of thing. That's going to be an S tier for sure. Let's see, Nissa. This one is also really good. Resurgent Animist, 3-drop, 3/3, basically gives you Lotus Cobra. So a land enters battlefield, add another mana of any color until the land, until the steps and phases end, until the land gets removed from the mana pool. If it's the second time that's happened, so if you're playing green mana rep, so in mono green this is heavy, there's a Naya deck that uses it, there's a lot of stuff that you can put this in. It's a 3-drop 3/3, so it passes vanilla. That card's amazing. And then I think the next set after the Lord of the Rings set is going back to Lorwyn for the elves set kind of thing. I've heard some rumors, I've seen some things in articles, so I think that might be the direction the Wizards of the Coast is taking this. I'm not sure, but that is a very good card for that, because the second one says, if it's the second time, search for an elf or an elemental card, put it in your hand, and the rest on the bottom of the library. So very good at fetching, very good at ramp. It is legendary, so you can only have one of them out, but still S tier nonetheless. People are doing a lot with that. Metropolis, what is it, Former? Let's see. Metropolis. It is Reformer. Okay. This card I thought is pretty good. I have not seen it be played a lot. It's a 3-drop 2/3 flying vigilance. You get hexproof, so a lot of those burn decks miss you. A lot of the sacrifice creature, exile creature, things like that, or exile all those creatures. -1/-1 counters to all the creatures gets past this, but it is another line of defense. I did see it in an angel deck, Selesnya angel deck with the Sigarda, which is the card I'll talk about next. So this, I'm going to say, is B tier. People probably find a way to play this, but it's not, well, we'll go C tier, because it is very useful. You gain life whenever it's dealt damage, and so if you can find a way to keep this indestructible, which Selesnya's got a lot of ways to do that. There's a lot of 1-drops that do it for either color, and there's a lot of creatures that do that too. The Living Cure, 2-drop, human for Selesnya, sack it, give protection, or not give protection, I'm sorry, give indestructible. That's another way you could do that. So, lots of cool stuff you could do there. So, Sigarda, said I was going to talk about. Where is Sigarda? There she is. S tier, for sure. Let me pull that up. Not just because I'm biased to Sigarda. I think the card's amazing. There she is. Alright, so 4-drop, 4/4, flying, so it passes vanilla. Other permanents you control have hexproof. So I can target them, but my opponent can't target them. I can look at the top card of my library at any time. So that's very good. And you can cast angel spells and human spells from the top of your library. So very good for Selesnya. This I've already seen in Diamond pretty strongly, and I think it's probably made its way to Mythic already. That's an S tier for sure. Let's see. I will hop around a little bit. There's a card in here that's, you might think it's okay, but alright, so Tranquil Frillback. 3/3 for 3, so it passes vanilla. When it enters the battlefield, you can pay a forest up to 3 times. When you pay this cost 1 or more times, choose up to that many. So for 3, it's a 3/3. For 4, it's a 3/3 plus 1 of those. For 5, it's a 3/3 plus 2. And 6, you could play all of them and it's a 3/3. Destroy artifact or enchantment, exile player's graveyard, or gain 4 life. I like the exile graveyard, 4 life. Okay, there's some value there. And maybe if you have like a way to blink it, that would be even better. Like if you put it with a Simic deck, it's not standard, but there's like a Thassa that blinks every turn. There's a lot of stuff that does that. So you might be able to find a way to use this. But yeah, I think the best mod of that is exile target player's graveyard. But for 4, there's other things out there that can do that. I'm going to say that's a C tier as well. This card, let me pull this up. There's Arias. Did I say that right? Ayara's Oathsworn is a 2-drop 2/2 that whenever it deals damage to a player, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. When it's got 4 or more, then if it has exactly 4 on it, search your library for a card, and that's whenever it deals damage to a player. So it has to have exactly 4 +1/+1 counters. That's a tough thing to do with all the proliferate that's out there. As soon as you get 4 counters on it, somebody could just add one. It's not conventional, but they could pull you away from that. Also, the amount of removal is insane. So trying to get that up to 4 is tough. You could probably do that with Angel Fire, get that pretty quickly. It's got Menace, which is great. So for 2/2 for 2 with Menace is already good. If you can get the other part off, great. This is an A tier card. I think people will be playing this. I haven't seen a lot of it, but I have a feeling it's also not legendary, so there's lots of stuff you can do with that. People are gonna find a way to make that work. Plus the mono black deck, use that to get Phyrexian Obliterator. I mean, why not? Okay. Anything else that pops out immediately? Oh, yes. There's a haste card, Samat, Vizier of Naktaman. It's a 2/3 for 3, so it doesn't pass vanilla, but it is first strike, vigilance, and haste. That's pretty strong for a 3-drop. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, If the creature entered the battlefield this turn, draw a card. That's pretty much only good for haste. There are some cards that say, bringing a creature tapped and attacking, but I don't think really any in this set. You'd have to really stretch to find what can really fit that. But I want to say A tier, because you could certainly use that strategy. It's red green, but splash that in with some ramp. There's some toxic haste cards that you could probably find a way to make this extremely useful. All right. And I guess we'll just kind of go top row, left to right, and then top to bottom to see the other cards. Arnie Metalbrow, this is kind of along the same lines. Get a creature into the battlefield tapped and attacking. It's got an extra cost of a mountain and a colorless, so you can play him, and then whenever a creature you control attacks, you may pay 2. If you do, put a creature with mana value less than that creature's mana value from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. So throw this in with a red-green, ramp up, play, make sure he's on the board, and then pay that cost each turn that you're swinging, and just get another creature out. But you do need draw, right? So you'd probably have to put that in, let's see, red, blue, green. So like a rug deck probably be good for you. That way you're ramping, you're drawing, and you're playing. Just kind of keeping that cycle going. But that's a lot to ask for, especially with the amount of removal. So I'm going to say that's a C tier. I don't see people playing that, but you probably could. All right. This one, forget what this one's called. Tazri, Stalwart Survivor, 3-drop, 3/3. Each creature you control has tap, add 1 mana of any of its colors. Spend only to activate an ability of a creature. It's kind of unique, but its ability says mill 5 cards, put all creature cards with activated abilities that aren't mana abilities among the milled into your hand. So allows you to throw stuff into the graveyard. A lot of people use the graveyard for many other things to cheat cards onto the battlefield. So this is a way to do that. But it asks a lot. It's asking for a board state. It's a Wooburg cost, so it's 5-drop or 5 mana cost ability just to do what it's asking you to do. There's plenty of other things that you could do to get that done. That's going to be a D tier, I would say. Now, this next card's pretty cool. Tanitha Nubenalia's Light. Pulled a couple of these in the unboxing. It's a 3-drop 2/2. Vigilance Trample Lifelink, though, so it doesn't pass vanilla, but it's got that. And once during each of your turns, you can cast an aura or an equipment spell from your graveyard. That's pretty valuable. With as much removal as there is, and discard, trying to cheat things from your graveyard, there's just another way to do that. I think that's pretty good. We're going to say B tier for that. This next card's kind of unique. It's talking about planeswalkers. So put it on the battlefield, pick a planeswalker type. That planeswalker gets hexproof. As long as I have a creature on the battlefield, it can't die. It'll just get reduced to 1 loyalty counter, which is pretty neat. But it says if damage dealt to a planeswalker would result in loyalty counters being removed instead. But I don't think that means if, let's say I have a planeswalker that has a -1 ability and it's got 1 counter on it, I don't think I can just do -1 over and over and over. I'm pretty sure that kicks it right there. So this is does give a little bit of protection there, but I think that's going to be D tier. The land in this set, it's a very small set, just kind of an additional set. This one's okay. Tap, add colorless, doesn't come into play tap, so that's a plus. For 2 tap, put 2+1/+1 counters on non-human creature that entered the battlefield this turn. That's what I don't like about it, because my deck's pretty much all humans, but I'm sure you could find a way to use this. There's lots of great things that could benefit from this. I just haven't seen anybody really play it. Utility lands are huge when it comes to doing well, especially in ranked. And the less enter the battlefield tapped lands you can get, the better. So just remember that if you're trying to spice up the lands. I'm using Blast Zone, so this is good. I'm gonna say this is B tier. It's not an amazing land. It's not like a dually, that kind of thing, but it's good. All right, next we're doing Jurina Dauntless General. 2-drop 2/2 passes vanilla. Enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard. That's very valuable. Sacrifice that humans control, get hexproof, indestructible. Also very valuable. It's kind of like the Living Cure, but in a different style. And it doesn't just protect one thing; it protects a tribal thing. So that's pretty good. I'm gonna say that's A tier. I've seen a little bit of that, not an amazing amount. I think the next one is Joriel. Yeah, Voice of Zalfir. This is awesome. I had this in a draft, and it really does help you get over the top. So it's a 4-drop 3/3. Beginning of combat on your turn, so right after you play it, up to one target land becomes an XX green and blue bird with flying and haste, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So blue is already drawing. That's a great Simic card for you to be able to keep your hand, keep your counters, keep your removal spells in your hand till the very last second, so you're getting the most value and dealing as much damage as you can on the board state. That's a really solid card. Whenever a land you control deals damage to a player, draw. So you're making that hit stronger just from one card, and you need the lands to play it. So play it turn 5, swing over the top. A little late, but with green you could ramp into it, so probably turn 4. Get that to happen pretty easily, maybe even earlier. That's definitely an A tier. The Karn is pretty good. 5-drop, its power and toughness equal to the greatest mana value among artifacts, so he enters as a 5/5, if not more than that, depending on what you have. At the beginning of your upkeep, add colorless mana for each artifact. Can't be spent on non-artifact spells. The other benefit is that mana doesn't empty as steps and phases end, so if you're trying to ramp up to, Cityscape Leveler, I think is what it's called, that you could certainly play that. I haven't seen anybody do that, but that's definitely something that you could do. That's, even though I don't play mono artifact decks, that's probably an A tier. Oh. There we go. All right. Next is Kiora, Sovereign of the Deep. This is a 5-drop 4/5 Vigilance Ward 3. Whenever you cast it, an octopus serpent from your hand, look at the top X cards from your library, where X is that spell's mana value. You may cast a spell with mana value less than X from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So that's pretty cool, some fetching kind of thing. It's pretty specific. It's not extremely tribal. It's not like only Merfolk. It's Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, Serpent. So those are, I'd say there's a good amount of those in Standard. Not an amazing amount to choose from, but you could probably make something around that. I'd say that's probably a C tier. Next one is Leyline. I can't remember what the second part of it is. Leyline Immersion. This is a 4-drop. Oh, yes, I remember this one. This is going to be for the Legendary deck. It uses, I can't remember what it is, but it basically just fetches more Legendaries from your deck and just spits them all out. It's using, Cascade. So it's just going to dig down and throw things out that all have Legendary. So this says, enchant Legendary creature for 4. It gets Ward 2 and adds 5 mana of any combination of colors. Spend it only to cast spells. So you can't use it for abilities, but you can definitely play anything else you need for the deck. This will help with their mana fixing problem that they run into. The way to beat that deck is just to hope that you can either try to destroy their lands in a specific way, or you could just try to rush them, and this will help them get to where they want to be quicker. So I think this is going to be an A tier. Next is Nahiri. Let's see, Nahiri is... There she is. Forged and Fury, 6-drop 5/4 affinity for equipment. So that means those equipment, or this costs 1 less for each equipment that you have. Whenever an equipped creature control attacks, exile the top card of your library. You can play that card this turn, and if it's equipment, you get to play it for free. So somebody's going to do something with this, especially because the next set has so many equipments in it. The Lord of the Rings set has, I don't know, it's at least I want to say 5 to 10 pretty solid equipments. Maybe I don't know exactly how many equipments, but there is a lot that I saw that are going to be useful. And I mean, in an equipment deck, it's not all equipment. There, you could probably do something with the modified ones from Kamigawa, because that way you have a board state and an equipment kind of thing, and it's still classified as an equipment. It's an equipment creature. So from the top, you would be able to play those for free. So somebody's going to do something with this. This is going to be S tier. The next one is weird. This is, what is it, Nahiri's Resolve or something? Yeah. So Nahiri's Resolve, 5-drop. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have haste. So cool, little anthem there. And the next paragraph talks about, at the beginning of my end step, I can exile any number of non-token artifacts or creatures you control and bring them back at the beginning of my next turn. So if I think that there's going to be like a board wipe or something like that, that's pretty strong, because I don't think there's any instant board wipe out right now. So that'll help you kind of keep what you need on the board state. All those ETBs are going to trigger again. So, or like each turn, which can be disgusting. Do that to Atali, and they're just going to quit, I'm sure, unless they have a way to instant speed removal or get rid of this. But it is pretty late game. So I'm going to say that's B tier. I did see somebody use it well, but it was only one time. So I'm not amazed by that. All right. Next is Nashi Moon's Legacy. This is a 3-drop 3/4, so it passes vanilla. It's got Menace. It's got Ward 1. Whenever it attacks, exile up to one target legendary or rat card from your graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy. Now, it says in parentheses right there, you still have to pay it. Unless it says you may pay it without paying its cost. So it's really close to being mythic status there. But very specific CMC. It's almost good, but it's not right. It's not quite there. Maybe there's like a rat deck that somebody's building that could be really cool, like a toxic kind of thing. But for now, I think that's going to be a D tier. I don't think anybody's really playing that. And then we have a Niv Mizzet that is Wooburg cost 5/5 for 5. Flying hexproof from monocolored. Each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard that's exactly 2 colors has Jumpstart. So kind of a Ravnica thing there. You may cast that card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other cost, and then exile it. So that's kind of cool. It gives you some resilience in your deck, being able to play things that you've already played or maybe that you've discarded to try to get some other benefit out of. I have seen nobody play this card. I like it. I mean, Niv Mizzet's generally pretty strong, but this one is on the weaker end of the Niv Mizzets that I've seen. So we're going to go D tier for that. Ob Nixilis, Captive, Kingpin, 4-drop, 4/3, Flying Trample. Whenever one or more opponents each lose exactly 1 life, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Exile the top card of your library. Until your next end step, you may play that card. It's weird. Exactly lose 1 life. So you can get loss of life from damage, or a card that says this player loses 1 life. That's very specific, and if you're only doing 1 a turn, if this said if they lost 1 or more life, that would be different, but it doesn't. And because of that, that's almost trash. In fact, I'm going to say trash. I don't think anybody's going to play that. Maybe you might find a way. I mean, 4/3 trample. Okay. Well, 4/3 flying trample. I guess there's some value. We'll make it D tier, but I am like a hair away from putting that into trash. All right, next we're doing mono green. Open the way. This is X forest. Can't be greater than the number of players in the game. Reveal cards to the top of your library until you reveal that many lands. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest in your library on the bottom of your library in a random order. That's cool because it doesn't say basic land; it just says land. So you could probably use this even outside of standard, I want to say. But somebody's going to find a way to use this. The only downside is number of players in the game. So in standard, you're only getting 2 lands for 4. They do enter the battlefield though. They're in the battlefield tapped, but that's still some solid ramp, even if you didn't have anything on the board. And in terms of commander, I'm sure that just gets better and better. But for now, that's a D tier. Pia Nilar, Council of Revival, 2-drop, 2/3. It's better than vanilla. Thopters have haste. Whenever you play a land card from exile or cast a spell from exile, create a 1/1 Thopter with flying. That'll have haste if that's out there. So that's kind of cool. I'm gonna say B tier. It's very specific though. You have to be able to play a land from exile. This doesn't give you the ability to do that. But it's, it passes vanilla. It's early game. Now the early game CMC is tight on it, but I think you can find a way to make that work. I'm gonna beat you for that. All right, next this is Plarg and Nasiri. Plarg and Nasiri is a 5-drop 5/4. Beginning of your upkeep, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. An opponent chooses a non-land card exiled this way. You may cast up to 2 spells from among the other cards exiled without paying their mana cost. It's a little confusing. We each exile card from the top of our library until it's a non-land. An opponent chooses a non-land card exiled this way, and you may cast up to 2 spells from among the other cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. So I'm guessing you can't play the one that they choose. It's worded very weird. I've seen nobody play this, and I'm not very confident on how that plays out. But that's a 5-drop 5/4 with nothing really other than that. It does do something each upkeep, but I mean, generally speaking, these at least as standard goes, by turn 5 you have a good idea of who's already won that match. So we're gonna put that in D or C. I'll throw it in C just on the off chance that you might find something that works, but immediately I don't think of anything that's like, oh man, that card's gonna be nuts if you put it with this deck or whatever. Next, Rebuild the City. This is a 6-drop. Choose target land. Create 3 tokens that are copies of it, except they're 3/3 creatures in addition to their other types, and they have Vigilance and Menace. It's cool because of the Vigilance Menace. I like that. Turn 6 is pretty late. The downside to turning your lands into creatures is now they'll get board wiped, and then you have less mana. So I'm not big on that. That's gonna be a D tier. Actually, that's gonna be trash. I don't think it's worth doing that. There's other cards that can turn your lands into way more useful things, and Vigilance Menace is cool, but there's plenty of tokens and board state. There's less flying, so Joriel that we talked about earlier, that's going to be a bit better to use, and it's a different color scheme. It's cheaper CMC. I don't think this card's good. Next, we have, what is this guy's name? Rocco, Street Chef. This is a Naya 2/4. So it's not vanilla, and it's skewed a little bit, so it makes you think like maybe I could play this, but once you read it, you realize that you shouldn't, and it's trash. At the beginning of your end step, each player exiles the top card of their library. Until your next end step, each player may play the card they exiled this way. Whenever a player plays a land from exile or casts a spell from exile, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and create a food token. So it does help you get +1/+1 counters. You get food tokens to sack it, gain 3 life. Okay. Can't even draw a card, you just gain life. That's weird. And it's helping your opponent. At the beginning of your end step, each player exiles card, and until your next turn, each player may play that. So that helps the other player all the way through your next turn too. Like, no, garbage, trash can. This next card is Sarkhan Soul of Flame, 3-drop 2/4. Dragon spells cost 1 less to cast. That's huge. Plenty of dragons to play from. This is definitely going to be in that American Dragons deck that I was talking about. Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, you may have this become a copy of it, except its name is this, and it's a legendary in addition to its other types. That's pretty good. There's plenty of dragons you can use to kind of get that to really hit. Plus, that's your 3-drop dragon turn. Probably get a good one out turn 4. I know there's a solid American dragon out turn 5. It's like Wijitai and something. I can't remember exactly, but it hits and you can return it back to your hand. And whenever a dragon hits, you look at like the top 3 cards, put one into your hand, like any card, land, whatever. So that I've definitely seen that hit, and so that's a solid card. I don't want to say S tier because it's very tribal, but it's definitely an A tier. There's no getting around that. Next card is Spark Rupture. Spark Rupture is... This is the one that gets rid of Planeswalkers, which there used to be a very popular standard Planeswalker only deck, but I haven't really seen that lately since Aftermath, so some changes have been made to people's strategies. It's a 3-drop. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card, so there's some value there. Each Planeswalker with 1 or more loyalty counters on it loses all abilities, becomes a creature with power and toughness equal to the loyalty counter. So that definitely levels the playing field. Probably a really great sideboard card, but I wouldn't main that in anything, and even then, I mean, you could put in a creature that's got menace or flying to kind of help hit those planeswalkers. Maybe some extra like removal or counters or bouncing, anything other than that to kind of solve a planeswalker problem. Because even if, let's say I play Elspeth and they play this the next turn, she starts at 5 counters. So maybe I did the +1. It's still a 6/6 creature. That's not like it's going to fix the problem. It's just going to change the problem. So we're going to say... I'm going to say D tier. D tier for that one. This next card is definitely going in the legendary deck. This is the Kenrith's Royal Funeral. It's a 4-drop. But it says, when it enters the battlefield, exile up to 2 target legendary creature cards from your graveyard. Draw X cards, lose X life, where X is the greatest mana value among the cards exiled this way. That's disgusting. Especially with as many big CMC creature cards they have. Use this with the Atraxa deck. That could be a 7 right there. Draw 7, gain 7 life. That's ugh. Legendary spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card exiled with this. So that's so good. So you could make all your legendaries cost 2 less. You could draw, gain life for 4. That's A tier. That might even be S tier. I'm going to put it in S tier because I know somebody's going to do something disgusting with that. Alright, the next one. This is a card I thought was going to be amazing, but I haven't seen anybody play it. It's called Training Grounds. Just a 1-drop. Activated abilities of creatures you control cost 2 less. Can't reduce it less than 1. But I always thought that would be an amazing card when it first came out. So maybe somebody will use it. I think it's got a great value for being an enchantment for 1. A lot of people don't do anything turn 1 with blue, and this gives you an option to do that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those Phyrexian flip cards that this would help with. Make those cheaper, so maybe somebody does something that way. Haven't seen anything yet, but I'm going to put that as a B tier. Alright. Tyvar the Bellicose. I think I said that right. It's a 4-drop 5/4. Whenever 1 or more elves you control attack, they gain Death Touch. So that'll be good. And I think, like I mentioned before, I think we're going back to Lorwyn. So this might have more playability, not with the Lord of the Rings set, but the one after that. Each creature you control has, whenever a mana ability of this creature resolves, put a number of +1/+1 counters on equal to the amount of mana this creature produced. This ability triggers only once each turn. So I think that's good. It's gonna be big ramp all your early game, not Land of War Elves, but all those mana ramping, tap for whatever, they'll get bigger and bigger, and instead of just tapping for mana, now those creatures can swing. I think that'll be some serious value. Plus the death touch. Ugh. That is, I want to say S tier. This next card is S tier, but not everybody knows how to use it yet. It's a 3-drop 2/2, but whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile target card from a graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So at very min, you're putting a +1/+1 counter on it. So it's getting bigger, and it gets the abilities of the exiled cards. Yes, you heard correctly. So if you exile a creature with lifelink, it now has lifelink. What about first strike? Yes, first strike too. Double strike, of course. Why not? Menace, sure. Reach, trample, vigilance. That's terrible. That's so good. Hexproof, indestructible. It can grab those, and that's just ugh. That's so good. That's gonna be S tier. I don't know. I've seen some people play it and figure out a good way to use it, but I haven't seen much. Now, the next card, Vesuvian Drifter. This, I think it's going to be widely used, probably even outside of standard. It's a 3-drop 2/4 flying. Okay. Look at the top card of your library at any time. At the beginning of each combat, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you reveal a creature card this way, it becomes a copy of that card until end of turn, except that as flying. How'd you like to get hit with a flying Atali turn 4? Without having to cheat it into your graveyard and out. None of those extra cards to fill up your deck with just trying to get that mechanic to work. Just, off the top. I mean, of course, you could add those in there too. A lot of draw discard stuff. That's extremely valuable. I think that people are going to find a way to make that work. And that's a solid card. I want to put that S tier, but it doesn't quite hit the mark. There's a lot of chance with that. It has to be on top of your deck. So if somebody has a way to make me mill a card instant speed, that'll change up what happens. So you swing with it thinking you're swinging with the Tali, and then they switch it to something that's not a Tali, and it's a 2/4. Oh wait, no, wait a minute, hold on now. It says at the beginning of each combat, you may reveal the top card, okay. It'll become that card until end of turn, so never mind. It's pretty solid all the way through. I was thinking that you can do that instant speed, but no, it's as declare attacks go, it figures out what it is until the end of turn. That's definitely A tier. I don't think it's any less than A tier, maybe S. But looking at the A tier, that's probably solid A tier. And then overall, is there anything that I would change? Helix, Narset, Nissa, Sigarda, Nahiri. Those are all solid. I think this is a pretty good depiction of what is a solid tier list for the rares and mythic rares of March of the Machines, The Aftermath. Lots of great stuff in here. Still haven't seen all the decks that are going to be made from it, but overall, pretty solid. Check it out if you haven't. And as always, thank you for watching, and until next time, deckheads, keep it easy.